Hello everyone. I've decided to do a video recording instead of a blog post, which I know is long overdue. So hopefully this is a better option in a way so that people can listen to what I've got to say instead of reading, because I do believe people have become quite lazy when it comes to reading. Okay, I was sitting chatting to my daughter not too long ago about mundane things really, and it sort of went further into how school was going and further still, which then kind of put my hackles up in the sense of more worried than anything else. The amount of children that are actually contemplating suicide. And yes, we've read about it, we know about it. It's not as though it is something new, completely out of the ordinary. I think what sort of baffles me more than anything else is that we as adults and parents do know about it, and yet we still go from the point that um, it's not going to happen to us. It's not going to happen to our children or our child. And yet when it does happen, so often you hear friends and family and parents saying, but we don't really know why, because the child was so happy, so carefree. I think the biggest wake-up call for adults and parents alike is that suicide victims don't necessarily always go from the point of being down, depressed, or projecting that. More often than not, they will come across as being happy, no problems, and we really need to look at how we interact with our children. Now, I'm not one of those parents that believe in the fact of, oh, it's a phase they're going through. Yes, to a point, because I very clearly remember my own teenage years, and you don't always want your parents on your back and harping about this and that and the next and wanting to know everything. That's fair enough. But it is vitally important that you, as a parent or an adult, interact with the younger generation. You know, if I compare to my own teenage years, where we in many ways grew up being quite stupid, really, in the sense of we did not have the technology and the ability to just go on to Google and Google whatever information we needed. And in saying that, I'm not saying Google is always correct, but they do have access to loads more information than what we do. And it is so important that we talk to them and continue talking to them. You know, I would hate to think that a child that I knew, and I'm not even speaking about my own child for that matter, but a child that I knew, and then suddenly to hear that they committed suicide, and I may have had an inkling that something was a bit off. So yes, as adults, we are basically forced into taking the lead and continue pressing on to try and find what it is that is perhaps bugging our children. Often it'll also be with regards to bullying, and many children today don't even speak up about it because parents, teachers fob it off by saying, oh, well, you know, these things happen. Maybe they do, but that doesn't mean that it's right. And we need to make a stand and really say no for our children's sake, for the generation that's coming. They've got so much on their plates, you know, schoolwork wise, activity wise, and there are many parents that keep pushing their children even more. In some instances, I will venture as far as saying parents living or reliving their childhood through their own child, and that is completely unfair, uncalled for, and should just not be happening. So as a parent, I urge you to really think about how your child may or may not be feeling. Maybe you are one of the lucky ones and your child is truly carefree and happy. That's fantastic. But there are as many children that are actually struggling at home, at school, and they just don't want to sort of own up to it because the parent may fob them off, the adult may fob them off. We have to sort of really push to find out what's going on for the sake of our children. And yes, I think a lot of parents are also fearful to push too hard, to try and find out because they think perhaps they'll push their children away. There's no such thing. As a parent, it is your responsibility to ensure that your child is happy. We only have one childhood, and as is, many children don't even have that because they are forced to do so much more than when we were kids. So from that perspective, I hope I've given you something to think about. If your child is struggling, please contact me and let's try and sort it out if you are unable to sort it out, or even if you just find some counseling somewhere for your child's sake. And with that, I bid you a good day and yes, all the best going forward for yourself and your children. Thank you.